Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. This is round number 2 of the season, coming to you today from VIR. My name is Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cameras, is Joshua Wilkie. Off the back of a fantastic show and old-school twist-and-turn filled track of Alton Park, the series rocks up to a very similar track today. Virginia International Raceway is always an interesting ride. However, the North layout we're set to use today will crank that up a couple notches. Now, Josh, off the back of a fantastic race that we saw 1 week ago here on SMB, heading to a similar-ish track with a long flat-ad run to the start-finish line, what do you think the chances are that we get another photo finish and make it 2 for 2 from this season?
Yeah, I think in the V's, Ron, it's going to be pretty close. Almost always is. It's a pretty tight course. Pretty quick lap around here, even in a V. Got a couple straights to do some drafting. It's pretty tight, pretty technical. The North layout is a pretty interesting little layout there with the uphill, lots of undulating turns and so on. So it should be an interesting one, Ron.
It is certainly going to be an interesting one to get our second race of this 13-race season up and ready to rock and roll. And I think, considering that we do have one race on the board, we'll take a look at the championship point standings. Of course, we have two classes here with the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors Spec 1 and Spec 2. And I think we'll start off by taking a look at the Premier class, that being Spec 1. And once again, as we saw last season, it's Jesus Rodriguez up towards the front. I believe maybe the championship results from last season, because I was about to say Jesus Rodriguez up at the front. He did well last week, but I don't think he was in contention for the win. Instead, it was Jason Green and Thortulo with a fantastic side-by-side fight. So I believe we'll actually be able to load up the points, but that's a good segue to talk about how things went last week here for the Formula V's at Alton Park, and talking about that fantastic side-by-side photo finish between Thortulo and Jason Green. When that finish happened, we thought that it was Jason Green winning it. It had him over Thortulo by 1/1000th of a second, but as it turns out, Thortulo ended up winning it when everything is said and done, only 0.004 of a second in front of Jason Green. But those two putting on a fantastic show 1 week ago at Alton Park. Those two are pretty much in a class of their own as well. So I think heading to a track like this with a ridiculous amount of corners, 17 according to the iRacing track map, but just doing my quick little maths and counting them myself, there's about 21 around this racetrack, Josh. Alton, probably a bit more simple than the track that we have today. I remember you driving around this track with the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors a couple of seasons ago, so you do have some experience around here.
Yeah, absolutely. The spec race around here was pretty wild. The more cars, obviously the gnarlier it gets. It is actually kind of similar to Alton Park. I'd say Alton Park is a little bumpier, has a little more character than VIR. That being said, the just flowing, smooth fastness of VIR is probably one of my favorite tracks of all time. So really looking forward to this one in the V's.
This track has a whole lot of history. I feel like I mention this every single time we do a broadcast around this racetrack. There's a video on YouTube of how this track looked like back in 1997, right before a lot of renovations were done to the track, because it was originally built back in the 50s and ran up until the 70s. Then it was abandoned and pretty much turned into a chicken farm. But the track still remained in the base track layout of the outer grand layout around VIR. Pretty much the exact same as it was all the way back when the track was first constructed. So I believe VIR's official YouTube channel actually has a video doing a small little track tour around the track in its very abandoned and rough-looking state from back in 1997. As a history buff, that is always very good to see. But now this track is a beautiful and wonderful and modern edifice in the world of American motorsports. Of course, holds the VIR has held the SCCA runoffs over the past few years. Will not be holding it this year, as that honor goes to Road America. But VIR, an absolutely iconic track in the world of racing, and hosting the second race of this Formula Vee Weekend Warriors season. And touching on the second class in this series, it was Andrew Love that took the S2 victory 1 week ago at Alton Park, ended up finishing P7 overall. But as it stands at the moment, looks like in this practice session, the Spec 2 and Spec 1 drivers aren't really too separated that much, Josh.
Yeah, not at all. No, Andrew Love is a quick driver, of course. He actually beat me in the SRFs last year in S2. He's behind me sometimes, he was in front of me sometimes, but he was always there. And at the end of the season, he ended up with more points. I believe it was only 3 more points than me as well. So he definitely knows how to drive. He definitely knows how to win a championship, along with a few of the other guys out here. I noticed we got Joshua Justice in here as well now, Jim Brewster, Thor Tulo. These guys are fast. Donnie Isley, we've seen him around before. It's going to be a good race for sure.
Oh, it is going to be a fantastic 30-minute race that we have coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. But right now, we've got a qualifying session to deal with. If you're not familiar with the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Series here on SMB, here's how the qualifying works. It's a 15-minute long session where these drivers have the track all to their lonesome and have 4 attempts to try and get the job done. I think as these drivers are on their outlap, I can spit my words out here, we're going to try and ride on board with the driver, and I think the driver that we may choose to ride on board with, if we can, for a full lap, is Michelle Lynn, who was very generous to be a sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We would like to thank Michelle for being a very generous person and making these broadcasts possible. She put a few of these broadcasts on SMB last season, and of course with her help and many other wonderful partners, made this series broadcast possible. Not a whole lot of grip hang through turn number 3 for Michelle Lynn. Thankfully she's on her outlap. So not going to help out her tire temperatures too much. Her tires have probably been reduced down to rectangles after that spin, but Michelle very thankful to have her as a driver in this series off the back of winning the 2 back-to-back Spec 2 championships. She's now moved on to Spec 1 and didn't have a fantastic race last time out at Alton Park, but is going to look to change things around. So as Michelle heads her way into turn number 7 on her outlap, I think we'll go through the tight and twisties, and Josh, I think I'll let you take a little bit of an onboard lap and give us a tour around this track. I'm better off behind the microphone than I am behind the wheel, so usually whenever I give a track guy, it's like, oh, here's another corner, there's another 21 corners and all around this track. And funnily enough, on the iRacing track map, for some reason they completely skip out on turn number 13. I kid you not, it goes 10, 11, 12, 12A, 14, then 14A. So not really sure what in the world is going on there, but as Michelle Lynn in the 05 car goes her way onto that start-finish straightaway to begin her first qualifying lap. We pray to God that she doesn't spin out on this lap and make us all look like fools on this broadcast. But Josh, I'll let you take it away for a quick little track guide.
Yeah, so we've got a big long straight here down into T1. Obviously a great drafting opportunity here. Nice and wide, lots of opportunity to get 3, maybe even 4 wide into T1. T1 can be a little bit difficult. It's actually got a bit of a fall away on the left side, so it actually kind of wants to pull you to the outside right here a little. It's hard to get the grip down. Coming into T2 and 3 little complex here is actually very difficult. This is where she spun. Actually pretty good opportunity to show how difficult this part of the track is, where it just wants to pull the rear end of the car around. Then you get into the little tight and twisties here. Pretty much line of stern through here. You're not going to see too much passing. If you do end up going double wide through here, you're only losing time. Up through the snake here. Another spot again. You're going to want to probably be single file through here. A little bit of a passing opportunity once you get out here into the right-hander that goes up and around the hill. Lots of grip in here. You can throw the car into that section, and then once again it starts to fall away from you there and you want to get on the gas. Up into the tire bundle area. Again here. Probably line of stern through here as well. And then a really, really fast, long compression into the bottom of the hill here. This is a great spot. Oh, and she just lost a bit of rear end there. So you can see that actually kind of rises up over the hill there. You get a bit light, and she just lost the rear end. So another spot you want to look at for sure. And then down into the compressions here. Lots of grip down into this area. And as you can see here, she's going to cut into the left. And then a big compression into the right where you can just step on the gas and try to get that blast down the straight for the draft again.
And Michelle Lynn proving the challenge around this racetrack. Thank you very much, Josh, for that track guide. And unfortunately, Michelle spinning yet again. Shows you the challenge around this track. That was heading into turn number 14A of Roller Coaster. I'm not really a fan of numbered letters. It reminds me of being in algebra, which I'm not very good memory from my end at
No,
all. I
me
do
neither.
not want to remember algebra in the slightest. But anyways, let's go back to the racing. And let's go back to this qualifying session because these drivers are already saying some lap times on the board. Currently, the lap times falling away. Jason Green on the provisional pole right now. Jim Brewster in second. Matthias Marin, the Canadian, slotted in P3 at the moment. Guido Marzucchi in fourth. And our old pal Adam Thompson here from SMB, currently slotted in fifth at the moment. Well done from Adam. We'll see if he can improve. Currently second of the drivers to set a time at the moment in Spec 2. And there's Thortulo already setting a time at a 141.5. The driver involved in that fantastic photo finish just 1 week ago, looking to try and tussle again with Jason Green. But as we're riding on board with the boss man himself, putting a bit more pressure on him, he is heading his way down the hill into Hog Pen of turn number 17 and 17A. Another challenging bend around this track, and oh so important in this race. Even if we were running on the full layout, this would be an incredibly tricky corner to try and get right, because you're going on to the start-finish straight away. And with these Formula V's, it reminds me of my early go-karting days, driving a single-speed Briggs & Strand World Formula motor on a go-kart. No gears at all, and it's just running off a centrifugal clutch. Of course, these cars do have gears, but you really have to worry about carrying the momentum heading through the corners. That's a big point of pride for the drivers that do well in this series. But as Adam Thompson shoots his way up to third in this qualifying session, the lap time's starting to fly away with 25 drivers running this series, and lots of lap times already getting set.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a 141.2 up front there from Jason Green. I know he's been practicing all week. He does do a little bit of coaching and stuff like that, so it's not surprising to see him up there on a technical track that definitely, like you're saying, it's all about momentum in these cars, especially around here. Yeah, so we got a bunch of times looking pretty close from there, though. We got the next four guys are like 100th or 1,000th off each other, and then it's even closer from there all the way back. So looks like we're in the 41s all the way to 14th place, so it's going to be a tight one as usual.
Oh, it is going to be immensely tight. I think these drivers are mainly focused about conquering the first few laps in this race as cleanly as they possibly can. Otherwise, there is going to be a whole lot of trouble for those drivers. But as Jim Brewster heads his way in through the left hook of turn 4 and 5, about to head his way through the snake section of 5A, 6, and 6A. Really like 7 corners packed into one, with only 3 of them being numbered. So, this is something, it's a little bit of a pet peeve that I've brought up on these broadcasts occasionally. American tracks just do not know how to number the corners at all. I remember watching a NASCAR Cup Series race at Sonoma years ago. And it's like half the corners weren't even numbered. A lot of them just had A. And I think at one point they went from like turn 7 all the way to turn 10. So, oh boy, that's a whole discussion for another day. I feel like I'd have to end up on the Racing Line podcast to be able to vent that out even more if you want to catch the Racing Line. And our very own Adam Thompson, along with Jason Green, who's still on the provisional poll, if you want to catch them on this series, along with series admin Stevie Ray. You can move on to the Ray Esports YouTube channel, catch that live stream and live podcast every single Tuesday. But with that shameless plug out of the way, let's go back to this qualifying session and talk about a pretty good shuffle up in the order. Adam Thompson now slotted in P2. Jesus Rodriguez, a reigning Spec 1 champion, now in 4th with Mercedes. We've probably killed that pronunciation so many times. Matthew Mercedes in the 780 car. The driver from the Virginias is his hometown track, I guess, and he is definitely showing it off quite a lot now, slotted in P2, and he is the closest anyone has gotten to Jason Green thus far.
Yeah, super close there. Real close. So, again, it's tightening up at the front, so we're out of the 5s into the 4s in the top 4 now. Looking pretty good. It's going to be a good race for sure. Definitely between the top 3 there. It looks like they are kind of setting themselves apart at the moment.
Well, that's these drivers starting to try and get the best times that they can. There's Ladar, Parvinder Ladar to be a bit more precise. He slipped his way up into 5th, so well done at a 141.467. So the driver for Bada Bing Motorsports in the 432 car. Yeah, very striking car, must be said. Gotta say, the great paintwork that we have in this series, some very striking liveries up and down the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Some cool ones. I definitely got to do my homework here and get some better livery on my cars. Mine's pretty basic, you know. It's nice and bright and it looks cool, but definitely not that much work into it, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I remember trying to make some paint schemes of my own, and I forget what car. I think it was going to be the Porsche 963 GTP car. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try and make my own paint scheme for the first time in my entire time on iRacing. Then I opened up Photoshop, and about 15 minutes later, I thought, no, I'm just going to work harder and just commission someone else to make the paint scheme. That would completely overhaul my brain. I think my brain would probably catch on fire if I had to make my own iRacing paint schemes, but nevertheless, some drivers with some very good work in Photoshop, and must be said to have some strike deliveries up and down the 25 car grid that we have for this race. And this is a driver that conquered it just 1 week ago. That's Thortullo, a driver who races Formula V's in real life, currently slotted down in 8th in this qualifying session, maybe trying to take a little bit off so he can try and improve in this qualifying session. Coming to the line now is an improvement on a 141.548 for Thortullo. Yes, it is to a 141.3, and with that, he jumps up from 8th all the way up to 2nd to go next to his old rival, Jason Green. I think those two, that's going to be a game of cat and mouse between those two throughout this entire season, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think Green, Tullo, Thompson, I think we're going to see a lot from them up in the front for a good portion of this season here, as well as today, for sure. It's going to be a tight one.
It's a tight qualifying session that we find at the moment. Morton Human coming across the line now, currently slotted in 5th, and the qualifying session is an improvement from him. No, it is not, just barely. Still on the 141.4s, however, did not improve on his time, so he remains in P5. Not sure what in the world happened there. Maybe a little bit of gas going on. I apologize for that. Hank Mell in the 388 car, currently slotted down in 17th. We'll see if there's any sort of improvement from him. No, it looks like he's just going to tow back to pit lane. Lots of these drivers getting their lap times out of the way early. And despite the fact that this track has 21 corners, we're still setting quicker laps than we saw 1 week ago at Alton Park. That's a little bit insane to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually pretty surprising. This track is just so smooth and fast. I think Alton Park it's a little bumpier and a little bit more rough than VIR. VIR has always kind of struck me as just a smooth, really fast track, and it doesn't surprise me that they're putting a little bit faster lap times in.
I think I may have sold this race just a little bit short. We don't have 25 cars. Instead, we have well over 35. This is, I think, one of the biggest grids that I've been able to commentate on for quite some time. So this is going to be a show here from race number 2 of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, exclusively here on SMB. And if you're in the mood for some more Weekend Warriors action, you better stay tuned for tomorrow, because we've got the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords. Josh is going to be racing in both of those series, at least the SRS. Are you running in the Formula Fords, Josh?
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to run on the Formula Forge tomorrow as well. Barber, it really depends actually how much practice I can get in this afternoon. I know Cadwell, actually, believe it or not, fairly well. So I don't need a ton of practice around there other than just kind of holding the car together around there, really, honestly. When you're racing there, it's more about racing the track than the other people. But yeah, I will be trying to participate in both of those for sure.
I feel like I need to write down that description of Caldwell Park, because that's pretty accurate, honestly. You do have to race a track, because that track it's pretty much just an oversized go-kart track. So maybe the Formula V's would put on a pretty good show there, since they're pretty much oversized go-karts. But nevertheless, that's going to be some pretty good Weekend Warriors action coming up this Sunday, only here on SMB. Gives you more of a reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss any of the action that we have here. Speaking of action, not a whole lot of action going on the racetrack currently, as most of the drivers have already set their qualifying times. It is still looking like it's going to be Jason Green, the driver of the number 1 car, slotted number 1 in this qualifying session. That was a pretty good lap time from him, so I don't think that will fall to anybody. The closest driver to get to him was Thortullo, who slotted in P2. I believe the closest driver to them in terms of pace that's still out there on the racetrack is Parvinder Ladar, who's currently qualified 7th. He's still on the racetrack, about to complete his final lap. And it should be noted that Jesus Rodriguez, the driver slotted in 6th, never completed his qualifying time. Neither did Parvinder Ladar's. He's towed back, so I think pretty much nobody out there on the racetrack besides only 2. This is Russ Lundberg right down the 129 car, currently slotted 34th in this qualifying session. A little bit of blinking activity, so maybe some UFO encounters already happening here at VIR. Besides him and Mario Pacone, only 2 cars left out there on the racetrack to try and improve, but 36 35 drivers to set a qualifying time, 36 drivers currently in the session, I believe, but that is still just an insane amount of participation and really awesome to see as well.
Absolutely, yep. It's great to see more people jumping into these Vs, man. The slow cars are fun, and as soon as people catch on to that, this is going to blow up, I think. Same thing with the SRFs and the FFs as well. It's just a blast driving these cars. A little more approachable in the beginning and so on. Yeah, I'm really hoping that more people show up here.
Speaking of blowing up, I have a feeling that Russ Lundberg's internet connection is on the midst of blowing up right now. Currently, his ping in session is at 458, which I feel like I haven't seen numbers that high since I used to play Rocket League on my Xbox One back in like 2018, but nevertheless, he's currently slotted 34th in this qualifying session, and maybe the fastest driver to take a trip to the moon, considering the connection issues he's having. But nevertheless, the qualifying session has come to a close. The checkered flag is out. And all these drivers are bracing for 30 minutes of racing action here from round number 2 of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. We don't have to worry about pit stops. We don't have to worry about all that flim-flam. It's just 30 minutes of heart-pumping racing action from start to finish. And as the drivers start to get lined up on that provisional starting grid before they grab the green at about a half a lap's time, I think we'll take a look at the lengthy starting grid that we have for just the second race of this season. That's Jason Green grabbing the pole at a 141.264. Joining him on the front row is going to be a Formula Vee driver in real life, that being the Brit of Thor Tulo, Adam Thompson, our very own SMB colleague, going to be starting this race in third. The top of the Spec 2 drivers and starting alongside him is going to be Matthew Mercedes in the 780 car. Morn Human going to be starting this race in fifth, a driver from South Africa, with Jesus Rodriguez, a reigning Spec 1 champion, in P6. Parvin Ladar in seventh, Chris Montgomery in eighth, Guido Morzuki in ninth, Jim Bruce are going to round out your top 10. Then we have Michael McConnell in P11, Donnie Isley in P12, Matthias Marin in 13th, Alan DeGassis in P14, Ken Poulin in 15th, Michelle Lynn in 16th, Hank Mellon 17th, David Fitzgerald in P18, Joshua Justice in 19th, and Dan Stasinski running at the top 20.
Right on, then after that we have Stephen Hammersick. I probably didn't get that right. In 21st, we got Russell Tauker in 22nd. We got Jeff Jacobson in 23rd. Gary Wolbart, in 24th. Moving on to 25th, we got James Rush, 26th, James Grider, 27th, Ross Luckhurst, Brian Hansen in 28th, Nick Tolo in 29th, Travis Rail in 30th, Wayne Buttermore down there in 31st, Michael Latarlo in 32nd, Mario Pacan in 33rd, Russ Lenberg in 34th. Ooh, this is a hard one. We got Anderson, let's just call it that, in 35th, and Simon Mayer there down in 36th, the last pro driver on the grid.
And Simon Mayer did not set a qualifying time. I don't believe he's lined up on the starting grid. Neither has Mercedes or Mike Lattarulo, so only going to be 33 cars to take the start in just a couple of moments' time, but it is still a hornet's nest of Formula V's up and down the grid. This is going to be some fun from just the second race of the season. The field is now in the hands of our front row sitters, the two drivers that treated us to a fantastic show just 1 week ago, Jason Green and Thor Tulo on that front row. Some drivers are already trying to avoid an accident a little bit farther in the back. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. And speaking of green, it's Jason Green leading them off into turn number 1. Adam Thompson from SMB trying to dice it with the drivers running in the podium positions right now. Gonna slip his way into second. Meanwhile, Jason Green still leading it at the front end of the field. A spinner already, not sure who that is. Going for a big spin and putting down a big smoke show heading through turn number 1. That, I believe, may have been Morn Human, who's dropped back a lot, lost 28 spots thus far. That is going to be the first driver to fall victim to a mistake around this really tough, but still somewhat short racetrack. Jason Green still leading it. Adam Thompson in P2. Thortulo in third. Jesus Rodriguez up 2 spots in fourth. And Chris Montgomery making his way up to 5th.
Look at that absolute snake of cars. Unbelievable start there. It looked like the entire front straight was covered with rubber there. Amazing that everybody got through it. I think we only got one spinner. Hopefully that didn't just jinx everybody.
Oh boy, I think it may have jinxed Michelle Lynn. She goes off for a spin. That was heading into turn number 7. Second commentator jinxed that. I think he'd pull it off. Josh, welcome to the club. Michelle Lynn dropping down the running order in the 05 car. Not sure what happened to her. May have been some contact, may have been a small little mistake. That turn is just so tough. Usually if you're running around the full layout of VIR, you can use a runoff area of turn 7 to try and just send yourself into low Earth orbit. But Michelle, trying to tackle that corner, may have had a small little mistake. It's tricky trying to sight it. It's like threading the eye of a needle with the needle attached to a Saturn V rocket. But Michelle heading into the corner, definitely, ooh, that looked very strange. It looked like your car just snapped mid-corner. I don't think there was contact there. I think that may have just been a simple loss of control in a very strange way.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. I think it's just overcooked it just a little bit. Wow, we got some battling up here in the front again. All over the field,
There we go. Yeah, sorry to step on your toes there, Josh. Our very own Adam Thompson getting the move done to slip his way up into second. Well done, Adam, to lead, well, not lead the first lap. However, he is starting this second lap in the lead of the race. Jason Green, meanwhile, still in P2. Jesus Rodriguez in third, and Thor Tulo currently in fourth. Some drivers dropping down a little bit farther in the back. I think Josh Justice may have just had a moment as he's dropping down the running order, as is Dan Szynski. That, I don't think, is a mistake. Those drivers are just battling oh so hard and losing out on some spots, getting hung out to dry on the outside line around a lot of these corners around this very narrow racetrack. Josh Justice locking himself in the midst of a hornet's nest right now. He's got Dan Szynski and also Hemschirk right behind. I probably killed that pronunciation. The driver running down to 19th. He's putting on a pretty good show at the moment in what I believe is a series debut, but a huge crash heading through turn number 7. Josh Justice involved in that. More cars involved, I believe, is David Fitzgerald. And oh, who was that piling into that? Getting some aerial acrobatics done. That, I believe, may have been Russ Lundberg running into that. Michael Lattarulo got a piece of it. He's had to tow back to pit lane. Lots of drivers scattered all around the racetrack. Jason Ryder. Good Lord.
Lots of drivers messed up in that one. We'll have to get a good replay. It's a really unfortunate spot to have the accident there just because it's a bit of a blind corner. It's a bit unweighted as you're coming over the top, and I think it just sort of cascaded one after another there. Somebody went, and then just in sympathy, everybody just spinning and trying to get out of the way, and just caused a big one there, unfortunately.
There's a landslide of Formula V's going up the hill through uphill of turn number 7. Not sure they're defying the laws of physics, but nevertheless, these drivers still battling hard up and down the field. Adam Thompson trying to hold off on P2 after Jason Green got moved on him to lead this race yet again. Tulo and Rodriguez, meanwhile, they're running in third and fourth, and they got a fight on our hands. And this is quite different from what we saw just 1 week ago at Oulton Park, Josh. We saw Green and Tulo just break away and have the rest of the field divulge into absolute chaos. It was a little bit different compared to some of the other Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcasts here on SMB. We're seeing a bit more of the old school Formula V action that you come to expect from this series, with the top 8 covered by about 2 seconds and the top 4 covered by less than a second.
Yeah, totally. It's basically just a line of stern, 2-second long snake, basically, that's of cars. And that's kind of the way it usually is, right? Like you were saying, last weekend was a bit of a strange one to see somebody just completely blast away from the gap, from the draft, and be able to pull away like you did last weekend. So we're kind of back to business as usual here.
I think we'll keep on this fight. Look at that. It's just a train of Formula V's. It stretches all the way back to, I believe, Alan Degassis running down at 11th. He's currently just 3 seconds off of the leader of Green. Going on to the start-finish straightaway now. We're riding on board with Chris Montgomery. And considering how these Formula V races usually go, he could very well find himself in a podium position by the end of this straightaway and everything is said and done. The driver that took the overall victory just a couple of weeks ago at Lime Rock Park to end off Season 3. He's running strongly at the moment, but Adam Thompson trying to get the overall lead yet again from Jason Green, who drops down now, trying to fight everything that he can to remain in P2. Those two drivers, all of those drivers going side by side, heading through the horseshoe. Thompson, Green, Rodriguez, Tulo, and Montgomery in tow. Lots of these drivers battling hard. Rodriguez looking to try and get a move done down the inside into turn number 3. Now he's trying to fight off a challenge from Tulo on the outside. Tulo trying to stick it around there, the driver that runs Formula V's in real life, trying to prove that he has the skill to try and compete for a championship this season. But Jesus Rodriguez, the reigning champion, slipping his way up into third. I think while we have an opportunity, seeing the drivers a little bit slower farther up the road, I think we could probably take a look at a replay to see that drama that happened not terribly long ago heading into turn number 7, because that took out a whole lot of race cars. That was the first pileup that we've seen this season.
Yeah, that was the first big major pileup. Let's see how it happened here. Definitely coming up the hill. This happened in front of him. Yeah, so we'll try to get a bit of a better view here. Let's try that again. we can go on board. It looks like something maybe happened in front of him, and yeah, so we got a spin, and then we just got people reacting to it, and just nowhere for anybody to go, really, in the end. Really bad spot for it to happen. And then we just have some fumbly stuff going on here. It's such a blind corner. It's a shame that had to happen right there.
That was Russ Lundberg that came in like a bat out of hell and got a little bit of a piece of that. I mean, his spotter was probably saying cars stopped a little bit farther up the road, but considering that corner is entirely blind, you don't really know how big of a schmozzle happened a little bit farther up the road until you are in the midst of it. But nevertheless, speaking of a schmozzle, we've got a pack of Formula Vee race cars battling for every single position they can. Thompson on the inside of Rodriguez. They're side by side heading through turn number 1. And look at the chaos behind with Tulo Green going side by side. And Montgomery Hill riding on board with getting the best seat in the house, running in 5th at the moment. And I gotta wonder how this fight is going to change when they catch up to Wayne Buttermore a little bit farther up the road. The shuffling going on our live timing screen. It's honestly a shock that Josh's computer hasn't lit it on fire yet, because this race has been so intense. Michelle Lynn making her way up to 24th, but our SMB colleague Adam Thompson still leading it over Jesus Rodriguez, Tulo, Green, and Montgomery, still running at your top 5. And I gotta give a special shout out to Guido Marzucci running down in 10th right now. The last driver running inside the top 10 for the moment. I think there may have been an incident possibly between Tulo and Hansen, as they lost out on a whole lot of time just a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, I'll see if we can't get a quick replay of that here shortly. Pretty amazing that we just have such a tight top group of drivers here. I expect it to be like this pretty much the whole race. You're going to have them going back and forth and drafting each other. Once again, Jesus Rodriguez as well, always there. He's just always there all the time. I've raced him in the SRFs a few times, and I can tell you that he races almost every corner. He definitely knows how to think in the car, and he is not going to let you make a mistake. So if you do, he will be there to pounce on it. As you can see, he starts back, but he always races so well. He's almost at the front again.
Yeah, I think he will be at the front in the not-too-distant future. Thompson, Rodriguez, side by side, heading down the start-finish straightaway into turn number 1. They make it 3 wide. They will make it 3 wide, nearly even 4 wide, with Jason Green looking on the outside line, but Tulo trying to get a job done down the inside. Thompson getting shuffled out a little bit farther back. He's now going to drop down to 3rd, maybe even 4th, if Jason Green has a good run on the outside. But Tulo, with the commitment on the inside line to get the move done, to go from 3rd to 1st in the span of one single straightaway. These Formula Vee races are always incredibly hectic, with some battles going on up and down the running order, but Tulo just proving that if you can time that run just a little bit well, you can find yourself in a very good position, and that I think is going to be a big factor when it comes time for the finish of this race in over 21-ish minutes time. We're running aboard with Jason Green, the number 1 car. Started this race in P number 1, was running in P number 1 for a decent chunk of it. He's now running in 4th, and ooh, you can see Wayne Baltimore running off a little bit farther in the front. There you go, the driver running a little bit farther in the back in the field after getting involved in that incident, hang through that exact corner of turn number 7 not terribly long ago. He nearly went off the track and caused a huge stack up behind. But speaking of stacked up, this field is stacked up entirely. Guido Marzucci and running in the number 19 car in P10 is only about 3 seconds in front of Tulo in the lead, as that I believe is Russ Lundberg that's had a moment heading through roller coaster. He's had a roller coaster ride of a race thus far and has gone off the track yet again in the RGL Motorsports 129 car. A similar mistake to what we saw from Michelle Lynn in the qualifying session earlier, so it's not too unheard of a mistake. Not sure what happened to Russ there. Hopefully you can find a replay in the not too distant future, but our attention is still on this massive fight at the front. Ooh, 3 wide.
3 wide again. Pretty much every lap here, I think we're going to see it, right? If they're smart, and I know they are going to kind of play off of each other this way and try to sort of move away from the people behind them. That being said, the guys behind them are not going to want that to happen, and they're going to make it as hard as they possibly can for these guys to pull away by wedging their nose in a little bit in a corner, just like Rodriguez is doing here. 2 wide is never fast, so you can see them catch up immediately.
I'm not sure if the noise that just escaped my mouth was picked up on my microphone. It was a very disturbing sound, so if anyone heard that, I would like to wholeheartedly apologize for that and any distress it may have caused. But that was oh so close, heading through turn number 3. And here's a replay of what happened to the driver of the number 129 car, Russ Lundberg. Running on board with him, heading through the mid-sector of this lap, about to head his way down the hill over the crest into turn number 14. Such a tricky corner because, again, in these Formula Vs, you want to try and carry as much momentum as you possibly can. And so for that reason and many more, that's such a tricky corner. We see another driver getting called out by that challenging bend. And it's just so hard to psych out as well, especially on this layout where you go uphill, then careen your way back down.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Ron. It's again that spot you just you're going up the hill and then you sort of just crest over the top of it, and like you said, you're trying to keep your momentum up as much as you can, and it just bit him a little bit there. It's all about kind of a little bit of brake, a little bit of gas at the same time to try to keep that rear end settled, and sometimes it just breaks away from you. Looks like we got somebody
as a lapped car
pit here.
comes down pit lane. Yeah, not
Jeff
sure
Jacobson.
who that is. Yeah, Jeff Jacobson, the number 40 car coming out pit lane. He's all right. Oh, yeah, I think he may have just called it a day. Maybe a little bit of damage from an incident earlier, but 4 wide at the front of this fight. We're talking about how it's got to be 3 wide. They're now trying to risk it with 4. They're playing with fire at this point. Tulo in the lead now, 3 wide heading through turn number 1. A little bit of contact as well between Green and Rodriguez, I believe it was. Jim Brewster now involved in that fight. With this battling, it's now brought the top 10 within a second and a half of all of each other. This race has just been absolutely insane. 4 wide though, heading into turn number 1. I feel bad for my microphone. I think it made a very strange squeak noise because I probably peaked it with the drama that we just saw heading down into Horseshoe of turn number 1. That's a huge crash. Farther in the back. That I believe is Parvinder Ladar. Yeah, you can see the driver of the 432 car. I could get the number correct. Yeah, that was the driver that just nosed it with a hellacious impact heading into the snake. Let's see what happened here, Josh.
Yeah, a little side by side. It looks like they probably just made, little. Not sure why he janked over quite like that. We'll have another quick look here.
When Buttermore went off as well.
Yeah, that was a big one. See if we can get a top view. It looks like just janked over from the left to the right, and they made contact front right. Oh, yeah, that was just 2 people, same part of track. It's too bad. I think I mentioned it earlier in the run-up to this. This is not really a spot you want to be going too wide through there. It's just you're never going to be fast going through there too wide.
I'm not sure who that was that they made contact with, but either way, Parvinder Ladar with a hellacious impact. Oh my God, are they going to try and go for 4 wide yet again? I think they are going to try and maybe go for it. They're 3 wide for the final podium spot. Oh my God, my voice already giving out from the drama that we've seen thus far. Jesus Rodriguez running down in 5th. He was in the lead not terribly long ago. Shows you the topsy-turvy nature of these Formula V Weekend Warriors races. That's now Jason Green leading, Adam Thompson in 2nd, Montgomery in 3rd, Tulo in 4th, Rodriguez in 5th, and Hull's cough drops. Very happy about this race being so dramatic, because chances are I'll probably have to go out and get a new bag after this broadcast is said and done.
Absolutely, there's just so much action going on. I'm actually going to take a little look back here and see if we got some more battles coming, from 15th or so back here. Same sort of deal. Michelle Lynn unfortunately caught up in this from the beginning. When she had a little spin there, she'd probably be a little farther up, but see if she can't make up some places here as well.
Oh, and that was nearly a collision between Poulin and Travis Rail. That was heading into turn number 4. Near collision between those two with Michelle Lynn right behind, currently running 17th. The driver of the 05 car running in the Spec 1 category this season, making the switch from Spec 2 to Spec 1 for this 4th season of 2024. So we'll see how things go for her. A driver that has experience running in Formula cars in real life, so we'll see what she can do in these Formula V's. Always has been a fixture, and of course is off the back of back-to-back Spec 2 championships, and not a slow driver by any means. Had bad rub of the green. I can get the phrase right, heading through turn number 7 earlier on in this race. That dropped her back a little bit, but we'll see how she'll be able to recover with still about a half of the race left to go. 15 and a half minutes on the clock. It's still Thompson in the lead, at least for the moment. However, we could see a fight between himself and Green. We are seeing a fight between himself and Green. Those 2 cars covered by less than a half a tenth, coming through turn number 2 into 3 right now. Another good overtaking opportunity, but as you point out earlier on in this broadcast, Josh, turn number 3 of NASCAR Bend can also be a real pain in the ass for these drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. Turn 3 is a bit of an odd one. It's kind of a double apex, sometimes even triple if you get it wrong. It really wants you to kind of hold out wide and then cut back in, but it's sort of a not intuitive thing to do. You actually want to stay a little bit tighter and try to get on the power early. So it's a bit of a strange corner. Really easy spot to lose the wheel.
That corner is just so tough. I believe I've gone off there 1,000 bajillion times in my time on iRacing, and both Forza Motorsport 7 as well, which was the first game I ever drove this track around in, if that's a correct choice of grammar. But nevertheless, Adam Thompson still running at the front. Jesus Rodriguez, the last car inside the top 5. And as it stands at the moment, it's Matthias Marin holding on to the final top 10 spots. It's now the top 9 covered by about 3 seconds, but it's still an insane fight up and down this field. And here's another fight. This is more human in the 702 car in the midst of this fight between himself. I believe that's Michelle Lynn, who's now slipped her way up into 15th. Travis Rail behind Poulin in 17th, more Human who are riding on board with a P18, and that's Wobold right behind. This is a huge fight of Formula V's trying to fight for the final position inside the top 15. Montgomery dropping back a little bit. I think he just had a bad run going on to the start-finish straightaway. They're heading their way into turn number 1 right about now. So for all we know, they could be 4 wide or something insane like that. Certainly wouldn't rule it out. With the craziness we've seen thus far, they're pretty much covered by barely any area. You can cover the top 5 with a blanket. Really the top 6 by a blank, with Brewster running in 6th at the moment, only 9/10 of a second off of our leader, Adam Thompson, in the 244 car, with these drivers just battling oh so hard. And another fight going on with the Gassis and Mel right outside the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just battles everywhere here, in and out. I have a feeling this top 8, top 9 are just going to be battling like this right to the end. So if they're smart, you know, they're going to be just kind of playing off of each other. You're going to see them 4 wide, 3 wide in the straight. And that's basically just to keep the speed up, right? You don't want to, you're going to have to get by the guy or beside him just to keep the speed up so people behind you don't get by you, which ends up being a pretty interesting chess game to play at the end of the day.
That's a great way to put it, Josh. It is like a game of chess, because these drivers have to employ a little bit of strategy about when to take their runs, when to hold back a little bit. Fuel saving can be a big factor in this race, and I'm not going to be mentioning what happened 1 week ago with the leader of this race. Gas costs money nowadays. I've ran out of fuel myself, but nevertheless, these drivers nearly colliding, heading through turn 14. That was a near collision between Jesus Rodriguez and Jim Brewster. Rodriguez at this point, I wouldn't say looking to turn his season around, because hell, we only have 1 race on the board at the moment, but for the reigning championship winner in this series, who won it in dominating fashion for season 3 of 2024, looking to try and go back to back. But right now he's got a whole lot of cars to try and overtake if he wants to win. And look at that, that's a preview for the finish of this race. I better get my vocal cords prepared. Jason Green and Adam Thompson side by side into 1. Montgomery and Tulo battling as well. There's a battle up and down the top 6 at the moment. The top 6 runners all separated by less than a second. This race is absolutely insane. It's Jason Green leading at the moment. Meanwhile, we got a fight on our hands in the Spec 2 category between Chris Montgomery and Adam Thompson. However, Tulo looking to try and stick his nose in all that. That's a thing when it comes to this race. And another difference from 1 week ago at Alton Park compared to what we see here at VIR today on SMB is the fact that 1 week ago, the S2 drivers were pretty split with the rest of the S1 drivers, and they weren't really contending for the overall victory. Here, meanwhile, it's really a toss-up. We could see a Spec 2 driver win, and we've seen a Spec 2 driver lead overall thus far in this race. And we could really see the likes of Thompson or Montgomery take the checkered flag overall when everything is said and done.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of the cool things about this Weekend Warrior series, actually, is that every position does matter. So it's not just about your class. If you end up like Thompson here, up in the front in S2, and you get a win overall, you get the win overall, and you get more points that way towards S2 as well. So it's a very interesting sort of dichotomy there, where you have a pro driver. You might be faster than him this weekend, and you're past him, and that pro driver has to kind of think like. It gets a little difficult sometimes out there as a driver in this series, because they don't expect you to be quick and they don't want you to get by, and I totally understand that. It can get a little bit contentious at times.
That's the thing when it comes to multi-class racing with the exact same race cars. You do see that interclass mingling a lot, and we're going to see that a lot heading into turn number 1 with Thompson and Green, a Spec 1 driver and a Spec 2 driver side by side heading off into turn number 1. Meanwhile, right behind we've got another Spec 1 on Spec 2 fight between Montgomery and Tulo, with Montgomery actually getting that move done with Tulo dropping back down to 5th. Now Montgomery got to slip his way to 2nd down the inside of Jason Green off into turn number 2 and 3. Will he be able to clear him, and will Green slip his way into 3rd? Yes, he will, as Montgomery is able to clear him. It's now a Spec 2 1-2 at the moment, with Green leading in the Spec 1 category right behind him 3rd. But at this point in time, I really cannot decide who will win this race. And we've mentioned a lot about how it's the top 6, the top 6, the top 6. That's pretty much entirely changed with this battling. It's that definitely turned into the top 9 as Green going to go for an outrageous move down the inside into turn number 7. Haven't seen a driver go for this thus far.
Aggressive.
Very close to contact, heading through the corner, an aggressive move. My thoughts exactly, Josh, between Green and Montgomery, and it's going to hurt out Green, I think. Actually, no, he got that move done when everything is said and done, so well done to Green. However, that gap between themselves and Adam Thompson increasing a little bit. Of course, a 4/10 of a second gap in these Formula Vee races is not insurmountable in any way, shape, or form. But talking about the point that I was going to mention before we saw Green go for that move into turn number 7, top 9 now covered by barely any air. It's 2.5 seconds between Donnie Isley running in 9th and Adam Thompson in the lead at the moment.
Yeah, this is one of those scenarios, again, where literally anybody in this line by the end could win the race. And that's, you know, because maybe there's an accident, because people get a little bit jumpy and end up touching each other, or just very simply you get a run from the back on the last straight and you end up passing everyone. It's totally possible. Makes this kind of racing really cool because basically, you know, we got Jim Brewster in there now. We have Michael McConnell in there. Donnie Isley, any one of these guys could take it in the end, especially if these guys get a little too froggy out at the front.
Yeah, if they get a little bit too risky and go for an audacious move that ends in a little bit of contact, we could see what we saw earlier and just absolute pandemonium towards the end of this race. Side by side, hang through turn number 4 and 5. Thompson gets the move done to hold on to the lead for now, but Jason Green got to try and go for the move that he went for on Chris Montgomery just 1 lap ago. Are these drivers going to be side by side? Is Jason Green going to go for the dive off into turn number 7? Or is he going to slip in behind? Yes, he will. Not going to go for the move that he went for on Montgomery. Because honestly, I think those two drivers were incredibly lucky that move that they did side by side between Green and Montgomery just 1 lap ago, they should probably buy a lottery ticket because they are oh so lucky that they didn't end up in the barriers.
Yeah, these are two guys who race each other really clean. They've raced each other a lot for years. They know how to race each other. That was a very aggressive move from Jason Green, but it worked out. There's really 1 or 2 ways that works. Either the other driver kind of sees you coming, gives it to you, thinks, you know, I'm gonna wait for a better day, or you guys make contact. And Montgomery's a smart guy. He got out of the way. It looks to me like Jason is making his way to the front now. He's about had it with this pack. It looks like his driving's got a little more aggressive in the last lap or 2, and I would expect to see him trying to get out front and stay there now.
Oh, we may expect some 3-wide action heading off into turn number 1 as Montgomery gonna go for it. Is he going to try and make it 3-wide with himself? Thompson and Green, they aren't going 3-wide. Instead, they're still side by side, with Thompson still holding on to it. Green unable to get that move done successfully. He's actually losing out on a little bit of time as he may lose out on P2 to Chris Montgomery. He's on his outside line heading off into turn number 3. Looks like Green is going to hold off onto that position, at least for now. That inside line is incredibly productive heading through turn number 3. We've seen a whole lot of driver withstand some challenge just being on that inside line off through NASCAR bend of turn number 3. But the fight between Tulo and Rodriguez is hot, and it's actually brought Jim Brewster into that. He may want to get a piece of this. The driver of the 133 car, one of the series admins, it should be noted, definitely going to try and use his admin powers and admin practice levels to try and get a move done on Tulo and Rodriguez to slip his way up into the top 5. Currently running 4th of the Spec 1 drivers at the moment, P6 overall. And if he doesn't force this issue, we could see Michael McConnell or Guido Marzucci, or even Donnie Isley for that matter, try and go for that move.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much anybody here can make a move down this straight. You're seeing a lot of restraint from a lot of these drivers here just to wait it out. We got a little bit more time to go. There's a few more laps. Try to be a little strategic, figure out who's slow where, and then make that move, hopefully in the last lap or 2, and it'll be a successful one, and we won't have a big pileup.
I think, honestly, it's not a matter of getting the move done the last lap or 2. It could be getting a move done in the last feet or 2 of this race. We saw, I mean, just 1 week ago at Oldham Park that these drivers are going to be side by side down the start-finish straightaway. They're 3-wide, nearly even going 4-wide or possibly even 5-wide down the start-finish straightaway into turn number 1. That looked like a far-off dive heading into turn 1 for Tula, who are riding on board with, currently running in 5th. He has a good shot to win this. Rodriguez has a good shot to win this. Everyone has a good shot to win this, but the drivers that just went off the track don't. That was Montgomery, Green, and Thompson that just went off the road heading through turn number 2. And right as I was saying that Thortulo has a great shot to win it, he's now inherited the lead. There's
Green is
Green,
in
the one
the
car, the driver that
pits.
started this
No
race from
way.
a pole. He's had to tow back. I think I saw that car have a big impact into the Armco on the outskirts of turn number 2. Oh no, there were 3 wide coming out of turn number 1. This is a recipe for disaster, guys. Let's wait for it. Oh no, I gotta say, Montgomery on that inside line definitely sweeped out and moved over a little bit farther to the right to try and set himself up, hang through the quick left-hander kink of turn number 2. But in doing so, he just completely disregarded Thompson and Green on his outside. Contact is made there. Montgomery nearly goes over. Green nearly goes over. Both of those cars have a horrible impact into the barrier. Both of those cars are pretty much game, set, and match when it comes to this race. Got to be relegated down to finishes well outside the top 25. And Thompson, I think, was a driver that got away from that incident the best. However, he's now running down in 7th, and unless there's some sort of major miracle, I don't think he'll be able to get away with this race and with this incident with a chance of taking a checkered flag. You can see that contact, and what do you make of that incident, Josh? That looks like a little bit of a racing deal, but again, Chris Montgomery kind of calls it as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to probably lay that at the feet of Chris Montgomery, unfortunately. I mean, we're talking fine margins here as well, right? But, yeah, I mean, we got to know when you're 3 wide, again, we're going through here, same spot, just like this. Let's see if they can make it through. And, yeah, they've made it through there. So, just cars, vying for the same piece of road, basically, and not giving each other enough room. It's unfortunate.
Oh, side by side between Jesus Rodriguez and Tulo heading through 4 and 5. They single file out, but getting back to that incident between Green, Thompson, and Chris Montgomery, really, that was just about as doomed as every single fashion attempt that I tried to make in middle of high school. That was just doomed from the very beginning, going 3 wide on anywhere apart from the start-finish straightaway. Really anywhere around this track is a little bit sketchy. We mentioned at the very opening of the broadcast, this track is old school. It has pretty much the exact same design since it did all the way back when the track was built, all the way back in the 50s. So it's an old school track. It's narrow as well. And even coming out of turn number 1, heading through 2, 3 wide in these tiny little Formula Vee cars, notwithstanding, that's just, that was doomed. So unfortunately for them, they're all going to get the short end of the stick and all of that. Really, Adam Thompson, who I gotta say was the innocent bystander in all of it, he's gone away from that incident the least terribly. However, he is still losing time. I think there's probably a little bit of damage on that Formula Vee race car of his, and that's going to take him out of contention for this win. But looking at another replay of it, Montgomery in the 33 just drifting over. It's so unfortunate as well, because that was setting ourselves up for a fantastic fight towards the end. But sadly, it has all come to naught. But we still got a fantastic fight and another crash.
Rodriguez.
Heading into turn number 1. Rodriguez involved, McConnell involved. 2 more cars going off, and that's going to reduce the front fight between these two. It's now Jim Brewster and Thortulo battling for the checkered flag. And with that incident, it should be noted that Thompson is now in the lead of the Spec 2 category. So it looks like when everything is said and done, he's going to take the win in S2 unless some sort of major drama happens between himself and Donnie Isley. Knowing my luck, though, probably just jinxed it, so I might have to issue out an apology to our former boss after the end of this broadcast. But we're on the white flag now, coming to the end of this race with only 15 seconds left on the clock. It is a dogfight right now between Jim Brewster on the 133 and Thortulo, who came a matter of inches away from tasting victory in the opening race of the season at Alton Park just 1 week ago. Brewster and Tulo, they're the only drivers involved in this fight. Guido Marzucchi, who I gotta say, he's gonna inherit a final podium position unless the battle between himself and Adam Thompson goes down in the final few corners. That's a fantastic result for the Italian, but right now our attention is on this fight between Jim Brewster and Thortulo. Brewster's going to be in the lead, but Tulo is going to have the most important thing in these Formula Vee races. It begins with D and ends with Raft. You got the draft going on to the start-finish straightaway. Did he get a good exit, though? That's a big thing. You can see Brewster weaving all around the racetrack, trying to break that slipstream. Even if he got a great exit himself, it would have been a fight to the line. Side by side between Brewster and Tulo. It's a memory of 1 week ago, and Tulo wins it. What? Tulo, according to our graphic, ends up winning it. Another photo finish here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, but this time Tulo is going to be the one that ends up getting another incident a little bit farther up the back and upside down, barrel rolling is Alan DeGassis in the 27 car. That was a hellacious impact for him. Not sure what in the world happened there. You mentioned at the start of the broadcast, Josh, were we going to see another photo finish? The word that escaped me at that point was deja vu. It was deja vu to Oulton Park. When everything is said and done, Tulo takes a victory. As we take a look at the crash between DeGassis. Oh, big hit, and he's got to dig into the grass and flip over multiple times.
Big one.
A wild ride to end a wild race here at VIR.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great finish again. I'm just going to wind it back here and have a good look at this last lap. He's trying to get out of his way here. This was the lap before. He's just trying to break that draft. Let's see if we can't get a good view of the finish. Wow.
Ooh.
It's about as close as she gets right there, I think.
Holy cow. That was inches. That could even been millimeters between those two. Oh my God, Josh. You know, considering that this is your second ever broadcast as a commentator, you've picked one hell of a series to choose because this is absolutely insane. This is pretty much as close as things can get in the world of iRacing. Deja vu to Oulton Park just 1 week ago, and Tulo and Brewster inches separating them when everything is said and done. That is an unbelievable photo finish from just the second race of this season. I think doing the math, it has been 7 thousandths of a second between P1 and P2 in both of the first races that we've had so far from this season. This has been one hell of a way to kick it off from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. And anyone watching this broadcast, if that doesn't give you a reason to subscribe, I honestly don't know what on earth would.
Yeah, absolutely. What an amazing race. Really too bad we had some contact here and stuff at the end. It was really shaping up to be that whole group of 9. It would have been really nice to see them all battle it out. But, I mean, after so many close calls and so many drafting back and forth and 4 wide and 3 wide and 2 wide everywhere, it was bound to happen. So good job from everybody here. But we got Thor with the win and Brewster in second. Amazing.
We also have some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area, but I think first we'll take a look at the results when everything is said and done here from just the second race of this 13-round Weekend Warriors Formula Vee season here for 2024 Season 4. That was a mouthful, and it was a mouthful coming to the finish. Thor Tulo takes the checkered flag when everything is said and done. 0.004 of a second between himself and Jim Brewster. After over 30 minutes of racing action, it was a matter of inches between Tulo and Brewster. We're going to have a chat with Jim Brewster in a couple of moments. He is going to be excited about that finish, and he usually handles the photos from these races, so he is going to have a whole lot of material as well. Guido Rozuki, the Italian, the number 19 car, rounds out your podium in third. Adam Thompson from SMB, going to be the top finishing Spec 2 driver when everything is said and done. However, maybe itching a little bit just based off the fact he had a really good shot to take the overall victory as well. However, just wasn't meant to be. Donnie Isley finishes in fifth. He was actually the car involved in that Parvino Ladar incident from earlier on. He still ends up running at your top 5. Jesus Rodriguez got involved in that incident, heading off into turn number 1 on the last lap. He finishes in 6th. Matthias Marin, the Canadian, in 7th. Michael McConnell in 8th. Hank Mella in 9th. Alan DeGassis in P10. Russ Telker in P number 11. Stefan Hemskirk finishing this race in 12th. Hopefully I got that pronunciation correct.
You got it,
Michelle Lynn, the sponsor who made this broadcast possible, she ends up in lucky number 13. Got involved in some bad luck earlier on, but I still want to thank Michelle for being able to make this broadcast possible, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have had that fantastic photo finish here today on SMB. Gary Wobold going to be finishing this race in 14th. Ken Poulin in 15th. Morn Human, the South African, finishes in 16th. Ross Luckhurst finishing in 17th. His first name was kind of throwing me for a loop there for some reason or another. David Fitzgerald going to finish this race in P18. Nick Tulo in 19th. Jason Green going to round out your top 20.
Right on, then we got the next Spec 2 guy, James Rush in 21st, Jason Grider in 22nd, Travis Rail in 23rd, Joshua Justice from Spec 1 in 24th, Dan Straczynski in 25th, Mario Pacan in 26th, Matthew Merciez in 27th, Russ Lindbergh in 28th, we'll advance it forward here, Chris Montgomery in 29th, Oilvind Anderson in 30th, Wayne Buttermore in 31st, Parvinder Ladar in 32nd, Brian Hansen in 33rd, Jeff Jacobson in 34th, Michael Laturlo in 35th, and rounding out the end of the field, Simon Mayer, who did not set a time and unfortunately finished in 36th.
And so those are the results from just the second race of this very young season. I gotta say, I think something bad must have happened down in Virginia because it looks like the entirety of Oak Tree is surrounded in a swimming pool. Not sure what in the world happened there as we were taking a look at the results. But nevertheless, we got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area, and I think the first driver that we'll bring in to have a quick little chat is going to be the driver that ends up taking the victory when everything is said and done. Thor Tulo now joins us in the commentary booth. And now, Thor, you've been involved in 2 photo finishes from the 2 races so far this season. Can you be involved in a battle for the victory in these races without me having to blow my vocal cords out in the process?
Not with us, not with us. Formula Vee is really close, you know, and I expected a really close pack today, but I didn't expect to win by another 4 thousandths again.
Yeah, we're mentioning after the finish and before we took a look at the results, that's only been 7 thousandths of a second with these battles for the win when everything is said and done, but it was not easy for you compared to last week with that battle between yourself and Jason Green. A little bit more up and down, having to deal with a lot more cars around you. Just talk us through trying to keep a level head with a lot of drivers going off around you and just trying to stay calm throughout that absolute hectic 30-minute race we just saw.
Unfortunately, in the first 5 minutes, I want to say, I made contact with Morn Human, and we had some damage. Just a slight bit of damage, nothing to really affect me. But it was enough to just kind of be really tense, you know, every single corner, every single lap. But yeah, it was just a big pack. But we all know each other, and we all really respectful racing, and I mean, I trust everyone around me, and it was unfortunate with the incidents, but yeah, just a lot of fun.
Well, that was a lot of fun for us in the commentary booth, and to hear that it was fun from your perspective behind the wheel, if not a little bit stressful. Man, this season was absolutely insane thus far, and we're going to be rocking up to Mid-Ohio in just 1 week's time. Thoughts on that race here on SMB?
I absolutely adore Mid-Ohio, especially in the V, so I'm really hoping for a good result there.
Alrighty, there we go. We'll keep our eyes out for you in 1 week's time when the series rocks up to another old school American racetrack. And now, Thor, before we let you go and celebrate this victory just barely over Jim Brewster and P2, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I just want to thank my team, Brabham Esports, and a big shout out to Jim Brewster. It was a great fight at the end there. And a big thanks to SMB. You guys are doing great.
Alrighty, there we go. Thank you very much for the kind words, Thor. Congratulations on the victory, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack at Mid-Ohio in just 1 week's time. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you so much.
And that was Thor Tulo, who ends up winning it when everything is said and done. And now I feel like we have to bring him in here to have a quick little chat. Josh, would you like to have a chat with the boss man himself, who ends up taking the victory in Spec 2, Adam Thompson?
Yeah, sure. Pretty good race out there, Adam. Obviously, we had a bit of an incident. How did you see it there? What unfolded in front of you to cause that?
It didn't unfold in front of me, Joshua. I think I was involved in it. It was 3 wide with 5 minutes to go, man. 3 wide going into turn. I guess technically that's turn 3. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I'm not going to place blame on anybody anyways. I have so much fun in this league. It doesn't matter, you know, if it was my fault, I'm going to take the blame for it. Obviously, I'll take that hit and we'll keep on going. But yeah, it was a fun race overall, and I knew it was going to happen. It was just inevitable on win, and great racing by Jason. Obviously, we had Jason and I can't remember his name, the other guy that was with us, and we were all battling the whole time up there. Thor was involved, Jim got involved. Just good racing overall. I'm still shaking a little bit. It was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There was 3 wide, 4 wide, 2 wide everywhere, doing so well too. It's unfortunate that it ended up like that. It did look like Chris had a little bit of room on the left there and kind of came over on you, but it was really good racing up till then. And congrats on the Spec 2 win. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Joshua, Ron as well. Ron, I miss you already. I can't commentate with you anymore. I'm so sad, but
fun,
yeah,
man.
Someone's cutting onions in here.
obviously you and Ron for putting this on and letting me race, and Zippy for taking it over. Obviously, you guys saw the flag he got me. All the drivers in Formula V's for allowing me to race as close and as hard as I can race. Big shout out to Jason Green, Stevie Ray, tune into the podcast on Tuesday nights. Jim Brewster, Michelle Lynn for putting this league on. Just an absolute blast. And I do need to shout out Tam. I'm sure Tam is watching. So hello, Tam. I hope you're watching. Glad to see you watching. And yeah, it's been a blast. And I hope to talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, excellent, Adam. Obviously, we want to send a huge thanks your way as well, and congrats on everything that's going on, and Godspeed with all the new stuff in your life here that's happening, and hopefully we will see you on the track more, and in the booth every once in a while when you have some time as well.
I hope so. And real quick, guys, I might have to join an interview waiting booth tomorrow. We are doing our gender reveal at 1 o'clock-ish, 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock my time, which is around 4 Eastern. So there might be a race. There might be an ending of a race. So I might have to hop in and tell you guys if I'm going to be a boy dad or a girl dad.
Right on, man. Well, yeah, good luck on that. Congratulations again, and we'll be waiting to hear the news tomorrow for sure. Right on. Thanks a lot, Adam, and congrats on the win.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
You too.
And that right there was the expecting father. Whether it's a girl dad or whether it's a boy dad, we'll just have to wait and see. Gives you even more of a reason to tune into the SRF Weekend Warriors broadcast tomorrow here on SMB. And we're going to have a quick little chat with the man himself involved in that side-by-side finish, Jim Brewster.
Oh, I wanted it so bad.
Insane.
For an old
Oh, yeah,
slogan,
I'm sure you did, yeah.
Because this season, if we're going to keep packing the grid like this with talent like this, that was my one chance, and I missed it. Oh, I could taste it, and I knew Tor was, but coming down the hill, I had a decent gap, and I don't have much experience of that weaving stuff. I believe in straight line stuff, and so I had to improvise a little bit, and I wasn't so sure how far you go in the pit lane without getting a penalty for going in the pit lane.
Well, we definitely saw you with that maneuver going onto that start-finish straightaway at the end of that race. You did everything in your power to try and hold him off, both a driver like Thor who runs Formula V's in real life. It has to be fun being involved in a battle with him.
Oh yeah, it was such a fun race because you could see the fighting, and the fighting got intense, and so me at the back of the group, in sixth or whatever, it's like, guys, you're messing around and we're getting caught. Guido and McConnell and somebody else was catching. It's like, guys, man, these guys are quick. They're not, they're going to jump in and it's like, quit messing around. And then all of a sudden, the seas parted.
Yeah,
that wreck was so unique. That wreck exploded off track right. It's like, I don't think me and Tor hardly had to let off.
It just cleared the way for you, yeah.
It was so weird. Usually when people are spinning, you got to worry about who you're going to miss. That thing just exploded, and all of a sudden it was just me and Tor.
Yeah, just parted the seas, both with the 3-wide incident coming through turn number 2, and also the incident involving Rodriguez coming into turn number 1 right at the end of that race.
Right.
But that was
behind
still
me,
yeah, that was still just an absolutely awesome race. A fantastic way to kick off this season. You're going to be heading to Mid-Ohio in 1 week's time. I mean, at this point, we've had the first 2 races of the season with the front 2 in both of those races combined, separated by 7,000ths of a second.
Yep.
I think Mid-Ohio is going to be fun as well.
Yeah. Mid-Ohio will be good. Yeah. Well, okay, so we're growing like crazy. Friday nights are growing. We're up to 20 cars on Friday night. Friday night, I think you'll hear Tuesday night. Certain nicknames and reputations get developed on Friday night and get discussed through practice here on Saturday. And we're just having silly fun. And at the same time, we're getting these monster talented people, and we're going silly fast. So silly fun, silly fast, that's a pretty good combination.
Yeah, that is a really good combination. I think outside of chocolate and peanut butter and jelly, silly and fast has to be very, very fun and fast as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had the privilege of being able to be a part of some of those Friday night Formula V draft parties, and if you join the Formula V Discord server, you can figure out how to be a part of those as well. And join this series, which has just been so much fun so
today
far,
in practice, we had 20, 25, 26 on Discord in practice today. So it just carries over. Anyway,
Yeah.
I have to say
amazing.
hello to my sister Tam. My sister Tam is, our longest, biggest fan. She gives me a whole email each week after each race with interesting questions and critique of the races, all 3 races, and then Tuesday night she's also in. You'll see her in the chat, and so say hi to her. And thanks to you guys, Stevie. You see, Stevie's gonna have us all wearing Ray Esports T-shirts and Racing Line T-shirts and hats before you know it. So we're just gonna keep growing, and I'm so glad you guys are here to enjoy the ride with us.
Oh, it's been a fantastic ride ever since I got started with the series that Stevie organized on Tuesday nights. Well back, and I think it was around about this time just 1 year ago.
Yeah, the SEC.
I've loved it ever since. Got started on the Tuesday nights. Got started here with the Weekend Warriors. Moved over here to SMB after some chicanery happened somewhere else. Won't talk about that on record, but still, this series is just so
Tuesday
much
night
fun. These
superstar.
Formula Vees on Saturdays are too fun as well.
Our Tuesday night superstar is up racing. Where's he racing this weekend? I can't. Morgan's racing somewhere. His hot rod Hyundai somewhere this weekend. So see how he does this weekend. And we get all the video.
Sorry. I think Morgan's running at a small track out in Indiana. I think it's a Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
that flat one,
sure.
that featureless one. That one actually works really
no
good.
history at all. Yeah.
We'll be there later this season because we've had really good races there with the Formula V's. All those big long straightaways, really are a lot of fun with the FVs. But anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Come join us Friday night, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I was gonna say last
I think
Friday
I may have
there,
to. I haven't been able to do yet.
Yeah, I actually joined you guys a Friday or so ago, and I accidentally took out the league admin on the start line. So hopefully I'll have a better Friday next time I join you guys. But it's a blast. So anybody out there listening, the Fridays and the Discord, hit it up.
Yep, very good. Thank you much, guys.
Your pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jim. That is Jim Brewster. Always a bundle of energy whenever we get the fantastic opportunity to have a chat with him when everything is said and done. But Josh, we asked them, and I'll ask you this as well. Going to Mid-Ohio in 1 week, continuing the awesome racing that we've had thus far. How do you think that race is going to be here on SMB in 1 week's time?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty similar to this one. I think a lot of these guys know Mid-Ohio pretty well. It is a fairly popular track. It really suits this car. It should be great, and I think we're going to see a very similar type of race there again with just Hornets Nest up at the front, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season, man. Hopefully everybody sticks around for the positions that they are in and can move forward, and I'm really looking forward to it.
We got a fantastic schedule of races from this season as well here from Season 4 of 2024 for the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, Mid-Ohio, Navarra, Alschersleben, Rudskogen, Summit Point, Zandvoort, Indianapolis, Lime Rock, Lebanon, Laguna Seca, and Okayama, just here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. And if you're in the mood for some more Weekend Warriors action, you can take a look at the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors tomorrow at Barber, and also the Spec Racer Fords at Caldwell Park, exclusively here on SMB, and you can see the schedule, fantastic races that we have coming up. You can see when they're here only on slow motion broadcasting. And now, to let my vocal cords heal and before I choke on the cough drop that I have in my mouth right now, I think that will just about do it here today. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie doing a fine job behind the mic and behind the mixer board in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all again wherever it is in the not too distant future.
You're clear. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. To work on my track guides. I like that. Next week I'm gonna work on a track guide properly so I have a better one. That was kind of surprised me. I'm glad you did though. I'll get a good one for next week. That'll be my thing. I really enjoy that. That's fun.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
That was
our
the
Budweiser.
biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and we need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We welcome you all to slow motion for this presentation of the Formula Vee Weekend Warrior Series, and we're about to grab the start in just a few moments' time. It's going to be Megan Overstreet leading them to green with Ladar right alongside. We're waiting for that green flag to come at, and the drivers are now on their way. Some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race, as side by side with Love and DeGassis heading into 5.
Oh, it's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just seeing Lynn run wide there, Ron.
Down the running order, Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars. As Montgomery gets that move done, one's running at the back. Well, not actually running right now, I don't believe, as there's a spinner with Ladar.
Oh, no.
Oh, and there's contact as well.